Hello, it's time for another Try It Tuesday craft with the Clinton Library. And today we're going to be working on another recycled craft for your garden or yard. We're going to be making a bird feeder from a plastic bottle. It can be a water bottle, a soda bottle, it could be a 2 liter, one liter, 1 quart, it could be a milk jug. It's up to you on what you want to do. What we're going to do is make some marks around certain levels of the bottle. We're going to punch holes to insert a stand for the birds to use. A variety of things that come to mind that are easy and inexpensive would be a visit to Dollar Tree, where you can pick up these plastic spoons. They come in a 4-pack. Each one is a different length for $1. If you're fond of Chinese food and have any extra chopsticks left over from home, you could do those. At Dollar Tree, as well as other stores in the area, you can pick up these wooden dowels. These are 6-inch dowels I got from the Dollar Tree. They also sell packages of 12-inch dowels. And be creative. You could use a straight stick from your garden. You wouldn't want it too large around. The birds will need to perch on it and have some type of purchase while they're feeding. The way I got started using this brand of soda bottle, I probably does not show up well on screen, but it does have lines going horizontally in several places around the bottle. There are also vertical lines because of a pattern embossed into the bottle, both at the bottom and the top. This is where the label was, so there's no embossing there. I'm planning to make this a 2-level bird feeder. I want one of the feeding platforms to be fairly low here at the bottom of the bottle. And the second one I'm going to have several inches higher, closer to the upper or lower middle portion of the bottle. The way I begin is, you can take a marker and mark on the bottle if you're a little nervous about getting things straight, or you can just freehand it. The one most important thing is when you do put your feeding stand in, you want them to be pretty much on opposite ends of the bottle. The next level is going to be perpendicular to the first one so that the birds are not stacked on top of each other, but you'll be able to get 4 birds around on one feeder. I started with a plan to have my hole for my bird feeder here at the bottom on one of the bottom lines. I started by making a small puncture in the bottle because it made it easier. I have this tool that has a sharp point. You can use a nail if you have a nail that you can get a good grip on, and use that to pierce the bottle. Something I use at home, I have corn on the cob holders that are in a little handle. One of them had broken off. It's now a puncture tool that I use in my craft room at home. Some people, if you have like a blade like this and you're very careful and you keep your hands out of the way, you could just use this to start and puncture the hole. We will be using a blade like this a little bit later to make an opening for the seed to come out for the birds, or for the birds to get to the seed. You can, if you have a good steady hand, actually make the hole with it. But I find it much easier to just start the puncture here. So I have my placement. And then I'm going to use my blade, and using the embossed areas, I'm going to go from about just inside one embossed area to the other, and I'm going to cut a flap hole. It's hard to see, but it will be much like this. If you like, you can just make a totally rectangular hole. You can try to do an arch top. Um, it is best to err on the side of caution. Start out with something that might be smaller than you think you would want. You can always make it bigger. You can't put the plastic back. You can also get the flap started, and instead of continuing with a razor, if you have a craft pair of scissors, definitely do not use fabric scissors, but craft scissors, you can cut the hole out with that. This can be an easy craft and fun craft to do with children, especially at this time of year and with the lockdown going on, and let them decide where to hang it so that they will be able to watch the birds and maybe keep track of the different birds that they see coming to the feeder. Okay, I have started my hole. I've used my punching tool and placed a small hole in this corner and a second as wide as I wanted to make the flap. I then used my cutting tool. I did not take it out very long because that just is inviting trouble for either having the blade snap or possibly slipping and cutting, not the bottle. And this type of tool has a little lock. So once you have it where you want, if you pull down on the bottom and up on the top, it locks the tool so that the blade should not slide back in. I then originally cut from one side to the other. The first few cuts were a little difficult because you were getting the bottle broken to get started. Once I got that done, I started up, straight up on either side and tried to make the tops even. As you can see, the flap is about that big. At this point, you can either use scissors and just cut straight across, or you can use your blade and cut across at the top. If you are doing this at home and you have a strong blow dryer, you can not cut the top out and not cut the bottom as much. Just not cut the sides. You would cut across the bottom, maybe making it a little wider than this one. Use the blow dryer, not holding directly onto the bottle, but blowing very close until this area got hot. And then use the back of a spoon or a pair of scissors and gently push it in. And you will need to hold it in that way until it cools totally. But that can give you a little pushed in area so that the food is just available at the bottom of the hole. It's very similar to the metal flanges that they put in commercial bird feeders. So once I have this done, I have a hole directly beneath where I would like my perch to come out. I have measured the end. This one I'm going to use the spoons, and I've measured the end, and it is larger than the hole made by a hole punch. But the punch is a good way to get started. So you can just slide it in and get it positioned where you want and squeeze the trigger. It takes some force, but it does work, and then you just back it out. And now you can see I have a hole. The hole is not quite big enough for my spoon though, So what I did in this case, I took a letter opener. You can also use an awl. You could even take the ends of your scissors, being very careful, push it in and spin it as you go to enlarge the hole until it's the size that will just grip the end of your chosen perch. I could have just used the chopstick and slid that in all the way to the other side where I've already made the hole, and it would sit like that. I like the idea of using the spoon and sliding it in and across. Don't quite have my hole large enough. Give me a moment and I'll be right back. Okay, I have managed to get the hole the size I wanted. So I'm just going to push the spoon in and out the other side. And I think I'm going to go the other direction, sorry. I made one side a little larger with the hole than the other so that I could push the bottle or the spoon further into the bottle so that this will also serve as a bit of a feeding platform. And that's what it's like. You're going to repeat the same process up a layer. I'm going to go about this high and prepare that. So I will pause for a moment and come back when I have that ready to show you. Okay, I have now added the second layer. I will mention that it was much easier to cut higher in the bottle as the plastic seemed a bit thinner. Down here it was probably still thicker as part of the base of the bottle, and it did make it a little harder going. In the process of doing this, I pressed hard and actually made my hole a little too big, so my spoon likes to spin. Once I finish the video, I might take my hot glue gun and just put a bead of hot glue at the bottom. You definitely don't want something like this to be spinning, as the birds would not be able to get good purchase, and if it actually went totally upside down, they would have difficulty gripping the spoon. You can use old wooden spoons. If you have, you could even use a coat hanger. Curl the end so that it doesn't have a sharp point. You don't want to injure the birds in any way. So we now have our perches. We need to think about hanging it. You can either wrap a string and tie it around the neck, tight enough so that it will not come above the little rim that is here. And you'd want to tie a string on either side of it and make it long enough to hang from whatever tree branch or hook that you have to put it on. Another thing you can do, and through the magic of computers, my lid has changed color. You can use the same nail or punch that you used to start to poke a hole through the bottle cap. And in this case, I used a twist tie, the long type that comes on a spool, and ran it through both ends, made a knot, and now all I have to do is screw it on and hang it up. As far as adding seed goes, if you have a nice funnel that will fit in, you can do it that way. I don't have a great, we're still using winter feed for our birds at home. So the seed I have doesn't have a lot of the smaller millet and smaller seeds. So I would probably start by filling from the lower hole until I got up to the level of the spoon or above, and then I would use my funnel and put it in from the top. If you can hang on for just a moment, I will again show you what that will look like. Okay, I did not bring as much bird seed as I thought, but I did bring enough to show you what I was wanting to make sure you knew. You're going to want to fill to just below the level of your first stick and reinsert it if you took it out to do the filling, because trying to push it through when there's seed in the way, you'll be pushing seed out the other side and possibly have a very hard time finding the hole on the opposite side to have the stick go through. And then you would fill up to the next level, reinsert the stick, and continue filling as high as you want. I would generally say, since these have the large open holes, you might not want to fill it much above, halfway to the top, above the top stick of your opening, or make the loop on this tighter so it doesn't have as much leeway to swing in the wind from whatever branch you're using. I did discover that a normal small hold funnel with this type of seed is too fine. Fortunately, here at the library, we had some of these cone cups, and they make a wonderful funnel. You just snip off the end to the size that you need. I started by putting it in here, and I started by putting the cup in the bottom hole and feeding the bird seed in that way. If I would have had more, I would now move up to one of the upper holes with the stick removed and continue to fill the jar. At this point, you are fine to go ahead and hang the item out, or if you like, you can further decorate the bottle. I originally had bought some iridescent flowers to put on the bottle, but my son pointed out to me, quite rightly, that the reflection of those might scare the birds away. Instead, I found some very pretty floral stickers, and I just would take them and maybe place them around on the top of the bottle, just so that, from my window, it gives me a little bit prettier of a view to look at. And you can put as many or as few as you like, although I would keep them away from the feeding areas for the birds. So this is the recycled bird feeder. I'm sure you would have some type of bottle that you could use. And I hope you have fun making this craft and putting it out to watch the birds come and feed at your windows. Have a good day and stay healthy.